Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be doing a Pink Floyd album ranking. Basically this video was quite highly requested actually. I had about 3 people asking for it on my recent one which I done on Elvis Costello, just saying why not do a Pink Floyd ranking. And I thought yeah, why not? I mean I won't say that I'm a massive fan of Pink Floyd, but I have been collecting their records now for quite a while, so I have all but one of their studio albums. As well as that, I don't really talk about Pink Floyd too much on my channel, plus I mean their whole career was sort of so varied, and every album is quite different from one another. So yeah, I just thought that today I would come on and give my thoughts on how I would rank their 15 studio albums. Now I would say with Pink Floyd there is a sort of general consensus as to what their best work was. Most people say 70s Floyd was the best, and this list kind of does sort of go along with that sort of thinking, everything else he done in the 60s and sort of the 80s and 90s maybe isn't quite as highly regarded. But anyway, I will just get started with the list. Number 15. In the lazy water meadow. Which for me, Pink Floyd's worst album, I would go to Ummagumma here, which is from 1969, I think. Now, this is not a great album by any means, I have to say. It's a double album, however, the first record is just all live stuff, so I'm not really, including that. It's all, songs, from previous, in, their, career, from, the last couple, of albums before this. However, the actual studio album is, for this record, they basically recorded as 4 solo musicians, rather than sort of pulling together as a band, which was one of Pink Floyd's great strengths. On this album, they basically recorded 4 solo tracks. They are very mixed. You go from Richard Wright's very pretentious piano piece, Sisyphus, I think that's how you say it. Roger Waters gets a really good song with Grantchester Meadows, however several species of small furry animals is just a waste of time really. Dave Gilmour has The Narrow Way, which is a good song, however, and then it just finishes with Nick Mason's Noodling, really. So yeah, not a great album, certainly one which I'll very rarely play, after, sort of my research, for, this video, but anyway, Ummagumma comes in at number 15. Number 14 now might upset a few people because I believe it is actually Nick Mason's favourite Pink Floyd album, although I don't suppose that you will be watching this video at all. It is Saucerful of Secrets, which was their second album from 1968. I'm just not a massive fan of the kind of vibe of this album. This was very much a transitional record for the band. It was the only record where they were a 5-piece band technically, because Syd Barrett was still sort of semi-involved with this record, and they were just sort of bedding in David Gilmour to the band lineup. So most of these songs you get I think 3 Roger Waters songs, a couple of Richard Wright ones, and then a Syd Barrett one to end. So it is a very mixed bag, and sort of the psychedelic stuff on here. It's kind of they're moving away from the sort of song structure of Piper at the Gates of Dawn to this more sort of freeform sort of space rock thing, which I'm not crazy about. So yeah, Saucerful of Secrets would come in number 40, just a tad better than Ummagumma for me. And then we turn the clock right forward now to their last album, which has come out in 2014's The Endless River here. I personally would say this album I don't think really needed to come out as a brand new Pink Floyd album. I certainly sense there was a sort of element of money grabbing, slightly, because all these were basically just Division Bell outtakes. However, they sort of strung them together into this sort of into 4 pieces of continuous, mostly instrumental music. I mean, there are some pleasing moments on it, there are some quite nice, memorable guitar bits and certainly keyboard bits as well. However, it just doesn't really hold together too well for me. It just gets a bit boring really. I mean, there's one decent song, Louder Than Words, I always thought was a half decent track. However, It's just not a brilliant album, this, like, really, like a bit of a disappointing way to end their career, because I certainly highly doubt that Pink Floyd, like, would ever issue, like, another another album, like, at all. Like, I mean, like, the Live 8 concert was sort of like a perfect way to end, like, their career, and then like, about 10 years later, like, they go out, like, and put out this, which is, like, a little bit mediocre. So yeah, we're coming at number 13.
Can't keep my eyes from the circling sky.
Number 12 now stays with the sort of like what I would call third generation Pink Floyd, like just as like Roger Waters like had like left the band, like it became basically like David Gilmour's band now, and like the first record like what that lineup made was A Momentary Lapse of Reason from 1987, and I always thought that I liked this album more like than I actually did, like because like I was revisiting like all of these albums like for this video, and this is one which I just thought it's just not very good, to be honest. I mean, like, there are a couple of alright songs. I've always liked Learning to Fly. I thought that's a good song, and One Slip, another cracking track. However, everything else is just a little bit dull. It's sort of like lyrically, like especially, like they went quite downhill. Like, and there's a song like The Dogs of War just sounds so forced. He sounds like he's very much trying to sort of capture like the anger, like what like Roger Waters like would have got like on albums like The Wall, Final Cut, like whoever on that song Dogs of War. He just kind of completely fails at it, really. I mean, there's just not much else to keep like you're interested. It's just a bit boring, sort of generic like 80s rock sounds to this album here. I mean, a couple like off highlights, like as I said, Learning to Fly and One Slip, but for me they can't really rescue this record like from being like anything other than like slightly mediocre. So yeah, that's A Momentary Lapse of Reason. Okay, and now at number 11, we've got an album which I must say, like, I have again was revisiting like all these albums and was actually quite surprised at how much I actually sort of semi-liked this album, like on like sort of like revisiting it. It is the Final Cut here from 1983. So this was the last one which Roger Waters was on, and like and this was almost more a sort of solo like Roger Waters album, because he does pretty much 90% like off like the vocals on here. He wrote all the songs like by himself, and like it's very much like got like this sort of like anti-war like sort of like theme like sort of going through the album. And like I mean, like when I was sort of first getting like into Pink Floyd, like when I was about sort of 14, 15 years old, like these lyrics kind of just like went like over like my head like a little bit, like whether like sort of like on like revisiting them, there are some really sort of poignant moments I got in. Like it's still not a great Pink Floyd album, but it is a good one, like I would say. So yeah, the Final Cut comes in at number 10.
And it's high time.
And now at number 10 is probably one of the surprise albums like from like sort of Pink Floyd's like discography, because I've not got this one like on vinyl like at all. Like it's one like it's something like what like I would definitely like need to rectify. But it is the More soundtrack, the soundtrack they made to the 1969 film. And I must say this is actually a really, really good album. There are a couple of great songs on it. I really love the Nile song, Ibiza Bar's great. What are the ones like off the top of my head? Cymbeline is really good. Like this one, David Gilmour sort of seems like a lot more sort of like established like in like the band. Like he's doing a lot more like off the vocals like on it. It's just got a nice vibe like to this album. Yes, there's a couple like of fillery songs like this sort of like it was a soundtrack like after all. Like so we do get like a couple like of like instrumental pieces and that. But you know, I think this album does hold up rather well. And like certainly most people say like this is one of their worst albums. But for me, we're coming at number 10.
No fear, you can't hear me, but I can.
Okay, now finally we're getting into the really good stuff now. At number 9, I'm putting Piper at the Gates of Dawn, their debut album. Most people probably would put this album a tad higher than this, because this has certainly, like, in recent years, like, kind of got, like, reappraised, like, I would say. Like, it's certainly now seen, like, as a seminal psychedelic record, like, of 1967. And it certainly was a great debut, like, for Pink Floyd. Like, this is mostly, like, Syd Barrett's album. Like, he wrote pretty much all, like, of these songs, like, by himself. Like, so, yeah, it's just got such a good mix, like, of sort of like longer experimental jams, as well as just a sort of English sort of like whimsical like sort of songwriting on it. Like, it's a quite an interesting mix, like, of the two. And like, yeah, a really, really strong album here. Piper at the Gates of Dawn, number 9. Okay, number 8, we've got, for me, the slightly underrated album, Atom Heart Mother. This is often also branded about as being like one of Pink Floyd's like weakest efforts. But for me, I actually think there is quite a bit of like good stuff like on here. I mean, the opening like instrumental suite is, I mean, maybe not to everyone's taste, and like certainly like if like you maybe caught me like not in the mood for it, like that might knock this album down like a few points. Like, however, I think it's just quite a creative, quite a fun track. And then you've got the 3 songs which open the second side, which are If, Summer of '68, and what's the other one, Fat Old Son. The 3 of those are absolutely fantastic, and like definitely make this album be one of Pink Floyd's more like underrated, like more so like interesting albums. So yeah, Atom Heart Mother here from 1970 comes in at number 8.
From the cold, turn my leg.
Okay, and now for me at number 8 is their most underrated album, one which probably a lot of people wouldn't have expected to have been this high up on the list, but I'm going for Obscured by Clouds from 1972. So this album often gets overlooked because it was the one, it came out only like a few months before Dark Side of the Moon, like, so it's often like it's just overshadowed, sort of like forgotten about really. But I think it is very, very good. Like, yes, again, it is a soundtrack album, like, however, like it doesn't seem like that. It seems like these are sort of like proper like thought out songs. Like, there's some great stuff in here. Like, I really love like What's the Deal, like, is a great one. Childhood's End, it's fantastic. 3-4, yeah, there's just some wonderful songs. Like Pink Floyd again, kind of going back to that sort of classic sort of I won't quite say pop songwriting, but certainly like this sort of acoustic sort of like songwriting, like, which had been sort of developing like on like Atom Heart Mother, and like it kind of reached a peak then. Like, this was them like sort of like revisiting that, like, which I quite like. So yeah, Obscured by Clouds, one of their more like underrated records, I think.
All in all, it's just another brick in the wall.
Okay, now at number 6, for me personally, I would put The Wall. Now, I did review this one a few years back, and I did say that I wasn't a massive fan of it, and I'm still not crazy about this album, but you know, this does have some absolute classics on it, like, which sort of like, for me, like, I have to put it like above like Obscured by Clouds and like Atom Heart Mother, like, if only 4 songs, like Comfortably Numb and like Another Brick in the Wall and Hey You, just some absolute classic Pink Floyd gems like on this record. I do think that the concept's like a little bit like sort like gets a bit tedious like towards the end, like of like the second record, but you know, it is a good album here, like The Wall. Yeah, like one of the more popular, like more celebrated albums.
Did you know?
Okay, and now at number 5, I'm going for, which should have been that their last album, came out in 1994. It is The Division Bell. And yeah, this is a really great record, a massive improvement like on Momentary Lapse of Reason, because this one we've got like Richard Wright back like on this record, and like it's I think pretty much like the same lineup, like apart like from him like being added, and I just think this album is so much better. Like the song quality is like a lot better lyrically, like Gilmour's like improved like a lot. It's just a more musically like interesting record. You've got some great songs like Poles Apart, High Hopes, the other ones like Keep Talking, Take It Back. Yeah, there's just some really good, solid music like on this album. So yeah, Division Bell comes in at number 5.
How I wish you were here.
Now we're into the absolute like undisputed classic Floyd. Like, this was sort of slightly difficult like to sort of like arrange like the order like of these ones, and like probably like for like anyone else like it would be like sort of like completely like interchangeable. However, for me, I have gone for this order. So yeah, number 4, it was Wish You Were Here, which is an album which I really love. I just think it's maybe a little bit short like on sort of song content, you know, like it's got like Shine On You Crazy Diamond takes up like a good like sort of 60% like of this album, like as we said, and like while that is a very good song, personally for me there isn't really the need for like the 2 distinct parts of it. Like I mean think at like this time, like they also had like the bulk like of like the Animals album, like sort of like they were playing like that live. They were a bit sort of like saving up like their like material like for like future like releases like around this time. However, yeah, I've got the classic title song, like Have a Cigar's great as well. Welcome to the Machine's like quite good too. So yeah, number 4 would be Wish You Were Here. Yeah, absolute classic. But for me, slightly better than that is Meddle from 1971. This one came out, and this probably only for the song Echoes, because that's just an incredible song. It's definitely my favourite Pink Floyd track. It's just 23 minutes of absolute pure bliss. There are some other great moments like on like the first side, such as Pillow of Winds, Fearless. Again, it was kind of Pink Floyd sort of like doing these sort of like acoustic pop songs like which like they would do like on like sort of like Obscured by Clouds like a year later. They're just really good at it, and like it's something like what isn't often sort of picked up like in like their work. But yeah, like I just like really like love this record. I mean, there is 1 or 2 dodgy tracks like on the first side, especially like the last one. I think it's Seamus, which is basically just like this dog barking like throughout the song. That's not great. Like Saint-Tropez, like it's also like a little bit like sort of like middle off the road. But you know, apart from those very minor criticisms, this is another wonderful record. So yeah, Meddle at number 3.
Got to strike when the moment is right without thinking.
And at number 2, I have gone for Animal. So yeah, their 1977 release, and this was probably the first one where like Roger Waters really sort of like took charge like off like the band. Like kind of like their other ones sort of previous, like Wish You Were Here and like Dark Side Off the Moon, like were a bit more like collaborative efforts. Like whereas this one here, Waters wrote all bar one of the songs like by himself completely. So it was sort of his concept, like it was to be this sort of Animal Farm, like sort of like comment like on like society, and kind of like for me the anger like on this album really chimed in well with like the sort of like the growing sort of punk scene like off the time. Like Pink Floyd like didn't really disappear like into like irrelevance. Like they sort of like they didn't quite stay current. I mean, because like the songs there like this Dogs is like 17 minutes, but you know, sort of like in terms like of like sort of like attitudes like and sort of like mindset, like as far like as like they were sort of like politically like at the time, they were sort of like they were sort of staying like up to date and like quite like I won't say trendy, but certainly like they weren't sort of like becoming like prog rock dinosaurs. And I just think that the musicianship like on this album is incredible. The song Dogs, like Gilmour's guitar playing on that is just incredible. Like Sheep is, again, you've just got, I would say probably Dave Gilmour's best guitar playing like on it, and like also Mason's drumming as well. It just pulls the whole thing together. Yeah, for me could be my favourite album, but you know, I did have to go like with the one which I've chosen like at number 1. But you know, Animal's a very worthy follow-up. And yes, at number 1 for me is Dark Side of the Moon. I know it's a generic choice, but I don't think they really bettered this. Like I was just listening to this one recently, and like it really just reminded me like how great Pink Floyd like actually were, because like this isn't a record like which I play like all that often. Like it's probably been about a good year at least like since like I like actually played this album. But you know, like when you just stick it on, it really just reminds you like how great like they actually were. Like, and it's sort of like it's thinking, well, I mean, it's hard to sort of like top this like as far like as like sort of classic rock albums go. It's just so well thought out. Like there's absolutely no filler like on it. It's just a sort of musical journey like which sort of, I would say like unlike sort of like The Wall, like it doesn't last too long. Like it's about sort of about 40 minute just sort of time to like escape off like into like this album. And yeah, the song quality is just incredible. The musicianship's fantastic once again. Like you've got sort of again Gilmour's like best guitar playing like the solo like on Time. Money's great as well. Like Us and Them. This is really for me Pink Floyd's best album like as a sort of teamwork. I saw like pulling together. Like no one was really sort of like in charge like, of this album like per se. Like they all like sort of contributed like their own things, but then sort of like worked on them together. And that really was just like for me like the best way like they worked like as a band, like sort of like coming together and sort of sharing ideas, and like this was like the kind of masterpiece at which we got out literally got like out of it. So yeah, Dark Side of the Moon for me would be number one and Pink Floyd's best album. So yes, I hope you have enjoyed this list, and I would be interested to know what everyone's lists out there are, because you know, like as you've seen, they've got so many brilliant albums. Like, it's very hard to sort of definitively say which one like is their best, but we all have our personal favourites, and like for me, these were just like my personal favourites, like the order like which I would like rank their 15 albums. So yes, hope you have enjoyed the video, and I will see you all next time for the next one. Goodbye.